And we are live. Hi everyone, I am Translator's content manager, Roberta, and I'm here today with Alfonso González Bartolesis, localization manager at Sync Email, which also happens to be my boss. Hi Alfonso, how are you?
Hi, Roberta, how are you doing? Doing great. Thank
Very
you for
well.
having me here. Thank you for inviting me.
So actually, we're here today to help you write the best translator CV. I have prepared some questions, but please do not hesitate to write your questions in the comments or in the chat, and I'll share them with on the screen with Alfonso so he can address them. And without further ado, Alfonso, are you ready?
I hope so. I think so.
You were born ready, as we
Yeah,
say
I was
in
born.
Italian.
Oh,
So let's get started. So as I said, you are a localization manager. So part of your job is to evaluate translators' CV. So before we move on to the steps that we need to follow to build a CV, what are the three most important things language professionals should keep in mind when they draft their CVs?
well, the first one I will say is to think of the company they are writing for. I think that's the most important thing. They need to tailor their CV and their message to the needs of the company and not the other way around. So you need to apply thinking of what's that company looking for, what are their needs, and you should create or you should modify um, or optimize your CV thinking of that. Um, I would say that's the most important thing. Then of course. Um, well, thinking first very well the positions that you want to apply for. It's not about sending 1 million emails to 1 million agencies out there or to 1 million positions. We have all done that. We have all been there. So no problems if you do that. But you should learn to choose the place where you would like to work or the companies you would like to work with. You should do some research before sending your message. You don't want to end up working for an agency that pays you very little or that has working conditions that are not good. So those are things you have to think of. And then you also need to think of there are many things you need to think about, and we will go through them, but you also need to think about the CV itself, not only not only about the information that it will contain, but also where is the company based, the company you are going to send your CV. Or you need to think a lot of a lot of things, as we will see later. um, for example, in some countries, they don't like to that you send a picture in the CV. In some others, they love to have a picture, but it needs to be a professional picture and not the typical one you take with your cell phone in your bathroom. So those are the typical things we need to start thinking, at least, before sending a CV anywhere.
Okay, so I will move on to my first question that is a classic. So Europass. Is Europass okay, or should we pick a creative template, another template? And where can we find this kind of CV templates online?
I personally do not like Europass, but I mean, it's not that I do not like it per se. Um, I think Europass is a good, it can help or it can work as a good template because it's translated into a lot of languages, and those are good translations. So for the headings of each of the parts in your CV can be helpful, but I will never send a Europass CV. Why? Because it's saying something like, okay, I'm very amateur and I didn't have the opportunity to create my own CV to my own style. Now you need to create something that talks about you. The way you have created the CV is very important. And as you were asking, some sources where you can find good CVs example could be Canva. Canva, I think it's the main source today for most people. There are other tools out there, of course, but I mean, just to have a quick start and a safe one where you have lots of templates, go to Canva and then just adapt one of their great templates to your needs.
I use Canva, so I can say that it's really easy to use because I don't really know how to use anything else. So it's really basic, but
Yeah.
it's useful. It's really,
I,
really
I use
easy.
Canva as well. I'm
It's
not
very
recommending
user friendly.
for the sake of recommending. I'm recommending because it's the one I use. And actually, we are going to share a CV, my own CV, as an example of a CV that I created using Canva. So that demonstrates that it's a very good tool.
Mm-hmm. So can we share it now, or should
Sure.
I
Let
move
me.
on to the next question?
No, let me. We can start sharing it. Okay. I think
Okay.
everybody can see it. Of course, this is an example, so do not take us as like uh, yeah, as
It's not the
there's not,
Bible.
yeah, it's not the Bible, it's not written on stone or anything. So take this as an example of something that I can tell you this works. Then of course you can have many other styles, but yeah, we can comment on it slowly, and I'll wait for
Mhm.
your questions.
So, what is the first thing that a recruiter should read on your CV when he or she or they open it?
If we are talking just about the CV, I will focus mainly on, I mean, on a quick look, I should see, okay, who's this person, the name, but well, let's take into consideration that some recruiting software they blur the names and they eliminate the pictures. That's very important to take into account because they want to avoid bias that someone is chosen because he's a man or she's a woman or he's from this ethnic origin or something like that. So many of these tools that we use in hiring, they remove that information. So take that into account. In any case, if that information is not there, which I believe it is important, you should have like on top there, you see that I have included localization manager. That's what I do for a living. So I'm presenting myself with what I do and my name. So that's important. And then I will also emphasize the fact that we should always like a very short lines about ourselves, telling what we do or who we are, and then of course your main experience are your contact details. Those are the things that anybody should see very very fast to begin with.
Mhm. And the contact info. So the email, maybe the cell phone, maybe the address. It
Yeah,
depends
absolutely.
if you apply for a remote position or not. In that case, it doesn't really matter. But anyway, and
Uh, yeah,
so
sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, contact information is vital, so add your contact information there. Some people say that it's important to have your own website or your own email address. It's good if you have that, but for me, if you have a good CV, if you are the ideal candidate for my company, I don't care if you have your own website or your own web page or your own email address. I don't care about that at all. Actually, it's something I don't look at. But also include your LinkedIn or Xing profile. That's also something positive, and a mobile phone or two mobile phone numbers, like in the example there. I hope you can see them well. Something like that is super important.
mhm. And I can also see that there is like a description in the personal profile. And how can we write a compelling personal profile?
Um, well, what you need to focus here, it's just two three lines what you can write here. So you need to say, okay, why should I be hired? Why I am good for or the best candidate for this position? Because maybe you don't have another opportunity, or maybe the company is not going to read your cover letter or your email you have you have sent, if you send an email, and if you don't go through a platform. So there you should include the keywords, the main keywords of what you want that company to see from you. And I'm using keywords, that is a word that we also use in SEO. But keywords, as you need to do something very important, and I always advise people to do that. Go to the to the job ad, take a look to what they are looking for, what they request, what are the main the position, the position features, and then of course, if you have some of the features the company is requesting, try to add that information in your personal profile. That is super important.
And so back to the photo, can you expand more on that?
Yeah, I mean, pictures. I don't like pictures personally. I mean, I don't like to show myself, but it's important in some countries and for some people to have a picture of yourself. For example, I'm based in Germany. I'm from Spain, but I'm based in Germany. In Germany, it's very important to have a professional picture. So the picture that I have there, it's not too good for Germany because they will expect something more professional, and I mean professional in the sense that asking a professional photographer to take a picture of you. So that's what they expect in Germany. So you need to adapt your picture. Actually, you need to adapt your CV to the country expectations. In this case, if you're applying for a position in Germany, it should be more professional. Forget about the bathroom picture, the selfie you have taken. No, those things do not work. Try to take a picture as professional as you want, as you can. And then some other companies or some other countries, they don't want pictures in order to try to avoid bias. But again, think of this as many or most of the software, of the systems we use for hiring, they have the capability to remove the pictures and to remove the names, so we just see the information of the people. So in order to, again, avoid being hired just because you're a woman or because you are from Spain or for whatever the reason. But yeah, pictures are important, but it's please adapt your picture to the company and to the country and to the expectations of the culture where you are sending your CV.
Mm-hmm. And how should we describe our professional experience? You write work experience, but it's kind of the same. And how can we structure it?
But yeah, that's a very good question, Roberta. Yeah, the important part about, let me see, about the work experience is to talk about not the 100 jobs you have made in your life, but only the relevant ones. I have 25 years experience. I can tell you I could fill like 3 pages with different jobs, but that's not the important thing. The important thing is to include the jobs you have made that are relevant to the position, to the company. And then once you do that, you should talk about what you have achieved, the skills that you have gained, or your achievements, what were your goals. If you have data, even better, like I don't know, I achieved to generate $1 million in benefits. Okay, that will be fantastic if you have that information. Why? Because that's impacting. If you say work experience and you say senior localization manager alone, just with the dates, that's nothing. And that doesn't tell anything about what you have done. However, if you describe several of your main goals, of course, that's fantastic. In those main goals, main achievements that you describe there, try to include what your company is looking for. So you have read the ad, and then you create that section specifically to be the person that the company wants to hire.
Mm-hmm. So to summarize, I can see that you have written the job position, which, for example, is senior localization manager, and then we have the company, the dates, and also the type of company, which could be
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. In many cases, depending. Imagine if I use this this CV to apply to a company that is a software as a service company or an IT company. It's important to let them know that, okay, this is a company that works in the same field that the one as I am applying to. Why? Because you can tell the name of the company, Cinch email, but that may be relevant to you. That may be something that you know. I mean, the hiring person knows or not. So it's better to somehow delimit the company field of expertise, and that way they will say, okay, yeah, that's what we were looking for, someone that has been working in this industry before. So that's very important.
Mhm. And then you add some bullet points.
Yeah.
So not a plain text like a book, but some bullet points.
Yeah, try not to write a novel here, but just some bullet points that, in my opinion, I will say against my own CV that it's that there is too much information, and we will see that again. I'll tell you, I have 25 years experience. I can write a book about what I have done and what I have achieved and my failures and everything. But here, just try to focus on your main achievements in your current or in your previous companies. Okay, bullet points are easier, way easier to read than if you have to read a full text. So do that because it's way easier for your hiring manager or the person who is going to hire you to see the information, and try to make the information as short as possible.
Mhm. So before we move on to the next question, a quick reminder, please write your questions in the chat. This is your chance to ask whatever you want so we can address them while we're here.
Yep.
And then another very important part of a CV, which is the academic background. What about it? What can you say about it?
Well, well, yeah, it's that's super important as well. As you can see, my curriculum, and I always recommend curriculums to be just one page long, and we can talk about that later if you want. My education. Um, so here you can see my education, and I do not include every single course I have done in my life. I will need like I don't know, 10, 20 pages more. Okay, I just include. I even don't include some things because I don't want to make it very long, even some important degrees that I have. Why? Because you have to focus on what the company could be interested in. So again, say the place where you got the degree, if there is a degree, the name of the degree, the year you got it. That's basically it. Of course, if you don't have a lot of work experience and you have to talk more about your education, in the education part, at least do the same as we were doing in the work experience part. So develop what you learn to do. If you tell me master in international business operations, that says nothing about you. But if you says, okay, so I learned to well how to or the different operations that need to be carried out to send, to import and export, to manage a supply chain. Well, that's fantastic. Then you may be the person I'm looking for. But if it's just that, it's not relevant. In my opinion, in the stage I am, my education is not that important, because what people or what hiring managers are going to focus on is in my previous working experience, what I have done and what I have achieved. But if you don't have that much work experience and you want to enlarge your education, then again, add some bullet points on what you can do, or for example, the tools that you are able to use or that you manage, things like that. That will be the important part.
Mhm. So we have 4 questions.
Mhm.
So brace yourself, Alfonso. And the first one is, should the date of birth be included in a CV?
The date of birth. You can include it. I don't think I do anymore. I used to. Let me double check because I don't remember. No, I don't include it anymore. But And then again, this could be used against yourself, because some people may consider you are too young or too old. So I don't include it. I don't include it on purpose. But yeah, it depends on what position you're applying. I would not include it. It's not important. For example, I believe it's more important to include. We are talking about translation, the translation industry. So it's more important to include the country you are from. That doesn't mean anything, but because look at Roberta, she speaks fluently a lot of languages, and she's from Italy. And so, but at least it gives the hiring manager some idea. Okay, this person is from Spain, from Italy, so surely he or she is supposed to speak Spanish or Italian or whatever the language at a very high level. So again, and answering and closing the question, I will not include your birthday. I don't think that's relevant.
We have another question on languages, which is, would you mention that you are native of a language?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Reyes. Thank you. Of course, yes. When you are selling yourself as a translator, in my case, I think I have a part dedicated to languages, even if I do not market or sell myself as a translator, because yeah, look, this is what I have for languages. It's a very small part in my CV. So I say, okay, I'm a native speaker of Spanish, C2 level in English, C1, C2 in Italian, A2, B1 French, A2, B1 German. And I use as standard the European framework for languages. Why? Because everybody can get to know what that means. Please do not add stars. Do not add high level. That doesn't say anything. And always be, of course, be honest. So do not write something that you are not, because they may test you. But of course, if you are applying as a translator, your language combinations are super important, and your proficiency of each language is super important as well.
And another question, this is for me, I think, is the recording of the course available at the end? Yes. We will upload it on our website and also on YouTube, so no worries.
Yeah.
And then we have another one from Chiara that asks, do you have any advice for someone who is just starting out without a lot of experience?
Yeah, that's a very good question as well, Chiara. What I will say, this is not a short race. This is a very long one. So this is like a marathon, and you don't stop at kilometer one. So you will need to push. You will need to be persistent. So when you are looking for a job, that's how it goes. But again, do not this is my advice, do not send 1 million CVs and then go to Twitter and post a message saying, oh, I wrote 1 million agencies and nobody answered my emails. Of course nobody will, because you are sending the same email, the same CV to everybody without tailoring it to the needs of the agencies or the company. So my advice, think first who you would like to work with, then tailor your CV, tailor your message to their needs. You don't need to send 100 CVs in one day. It's better to send maybe 5 to 5 different companies and to apply for a position. And that's the way I do things when I'm looking for a job. And for me, it has worked very well in the past. So that's what I always recommend.
And also, Sally asks, should we write examples of our works, like URL address on the CV?
Yeah, perfect. Something that actually you can do, Sally, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, is to add a portfolio. So I will not add a lot of information related to the things I have done, in the sense of a lot of URLs in the CV, but you can add a portfolio. So just a single link saying, if you want to check, I mean, that doesn't need to be the sentence, but check my portfolio with some of my best jobs. And then the people who click there, you can drive them to, I don't know, maybe for example, a Google Drive PDF or a Dropbox PDF or a Dropbox folder where they can check what you have done. If that that could be a good idea. I can also tell you, being completely honest, that very few people are going to check that. Okay.
And then we have a question from Serena that asks a very clever question, which is not stupid at all. Is it better to put the work experience section before the education section?
That's a very good question, Serena. And there's never a stupid question, and never do that. They never say that what you are doing is stupid or bad in the first place. No, you are great, Serena. So your questions are great as well. That's a very good question. This is a CV. What are you looking for with the CV? You want to find a job. So your work experience usually is more important than your education, unless you see that in the job description, if there is a job description, because I know many of you send your CV to agencies that are not advertising any jobs. But in any case, what you need to solve is the company problems, and the company problems can be easily solved when they see what you are capable of doing. What you have studied can be or can guide the hiring manager to say, okay, yeah, this is the person we want. But it doesn't mean anything unless you describe what you have learned or the skills you acquired in with your different degrees.
Mm-hmm. And then we have another question from I lost it.
I see we have a lot of comments and questions.
Yeah.
So
Okay. I have one from Alexandra that asks, what do you see as the most appealing while viewing the CVs of future candidates?
For me, the working experience, and again, working experience together with the tools they are able to use and their language combinations. If I am looking for a translator, I want to see their language combinations, the tools they are able to use, but also that they have done some research and they know our company. And they have tailored their CV to following the description of our ad. So our job ad. So what I mean here is, okay, you may know how to use a lot of tools, but maybe for the position you are applying, imagine you are an audiovisual translator and you are applying for a position where they need, of course, that you know about subtitling software, but they don't care about what you can see here. In my case, teaching tools like Moodle, Blackboard, or LearnWords. Maybe you can delete that information and focus on all the other tools that you know how to use, and you can even give them your level of proficiency with those tools, which again do not use stars and do not use graphics. And let me explain you, because I mentioned it before and I didn't explain it. When you use stars, saying, for example, English, 5 stars, in many cases, your CV is going to be processed first by a system. If that's the case, the system cannot read the stars, but the system can read C2, C1, or high level, even if you want to write high level. But the stars cannot be read. So graphics, try to avoid those graphics that cannot be well interpreted by machines.
And again, on the work experience, we have a question from Tamara. Should we write the experience which was during a very short period of time, like for a month?
No, that's a very good question, Tamara. It depends on your overall work experience, and maybe in 1 month it was a very important part of the skills that you now have. And so, yeah, it could be important to add it. If you don't have a lot of work experience, of course, adding, even if it's 1 month, it's important. And something that it's also important that I mentioned before when I was talking about the information that you can include or not. You are a translator, or for example, imagine you are looking for a position as a localization manager. As a localization manager, you need to know how to manage teams. You need to know how to manage people. So even if you say, okay, I have worked all my life in a restaurant, well, that experience could be super useful because you know how to manage people, you know how to work under pressure, things like that. So but you have to explain the person who is going to hire you why your experience in a restaurant is relevant to this position. So do not believe that just because you work in something that has nothing to do with the translation or localization industry, that is not helpful. It could be helpful, even 1 month experience, because maybe you got the skills that are going to be helpful for your future job. But again, you should try to explain the person who is going to hire you why that experience was important.
Mhm. And back to the language section, how would you express the difference between active and passive language knowledge?
In this case, Jennifer, good question. Let me be honest. I mean, if you are just adding C1, you can add something like what you are writing, C1 passive, B1 active. But to be completely honest, if you are applying to a translator position, they want to know what's your language or what are your language or what your language combinations are and your level of proficiency. But we don't care that much about passive or active. I will not include that, to be completely honest. If you want, it's okay, but I will not focus on that. I mean, if you're a native speaker of Spanish or English, well, you need to or whatever the language, you need to show that somewhere. So the hiring manager knows about that. But otherwise, I will not include that much information.
Yeah, maybe in the profile description, it
Mhm.
can go there, like
Yeah,
from to in
yeah,
general.
yeah.
And then there's another question, but this one I think it's for me. What are we supposed to write on LinkedIn? We cannot tailor it as it is for every hire manager. And that's something for another video. So we will think about that and we will prepare another live session on LinkedIn profiles.
Yeah.
And then we have a question from Lucia that I pronounce in Italian. I hope it's right. If we have experience in one particular area, how can we adapt our CVs to make it more attractive or competitive?
No, that's a very good question, Lucia or Lucia, if you're from Spain or Spanish-speaking country. Um, well, what I was saying before, I will say you need to describe the skills you got in that position. So the manager or the person who's going to hire you knows why you are the right candidate. So maybe you have just worked in audiovisual translation, but even if you work in audiovisual translator, you could have also worked as a project manager. So you have project management skills, and you have imagine you have managed 200 projects per week. So that's something that you have to say, like that type of data, like managing 200 projects per week, something like that. That's data that, okay, when I read it, I know that person has the skills to manage a lot of work, and that is not going to be afraid of receiving a lot of requests at the same time, or working with international teams, things like that. So you have to tailor the message to the needs of the company you're writing for. That's the most important thing.
And then from Girara, what have been the most common mistakes, like 2 or 3, that linguists have been making when writing their CVs?
Well, first of all, that's a very good question, Girara. I received personally a lot of emails on my Translate Stars on the Translate Stars side. I receive a lot, and I understand the people who are writing the CVs, and I always try to answer those emails. And the way we answer them is, this is not a translation agency. Translate Stars is an online learning platform. So that's the main mistake. Most of the time, linguists email their CV to places that where they do not require a translator. So because they have not done the proper research. So that's the first one. Then the second one is when you send an email, most of the times the same email is sent to everybody. So it's not appealing to me. It's not talking to me as a manager or as the person who is in charge of the companies. Yeah, like the typical, to whom it may concern. Okay, wow, great start. No, try to be a little bit better there and say, dear localization manager. Okay, that's a good beginning. Or dear hiring manager. That's a different thing. Even if you don't know if that's going to get directly to the hiring manager. If you're applying through a portal, then of course check that your CV has no typos or things like that. Of course, we are all human, and nothing happens if there is a small typo. But if you see a lot of typos in a CV or on an email, you say, "Oh my God! If this person didn't take the time to answer or sorry to carefully write the CV or the letter, then it's not going to be the person we are looking for." So yeah, those could be like some advice based on mistakes.
And from Asma, should we add references on CV or upon request?
I used to, that's a good question. I used to add contact information from my previous employers, but I don't do it anymore because they never get in touch with them unless they request you to do that. I mean, yes, companies I have been hired for, they have contacted my previous employers and they have made them several questions, but they requested me the permission to talk to them. So I will not include that information anymore. And then for I mean GDPR reasons, including phone numbers or emails from people that they didn't allow you to do that. I don't think if that's very safe to do. So yeah, don't do that. I mean, they have the name of the company you have been working for. If they need information, you can provide that. You need to ask, of course, first your previous employer if you can share that information, that contact information. But that should be okay.
And again, from Dilara, are the systems that you are talking about the ones which read the CVs able to read a CV created with Canva?
Yeah, because for example, the CV you are seeing on the screen, it's my CV was created on Canva. I have downloaded it as a PDF, and you can let me show you. As you can see, I can highlight the text perfectly well, so there are no problems with that. So do not use a picture of a CV. Use a CV that can be readable, so it needs to contain text.
And then we have a question from Alberto. Are cover letters a decisive factor for recruiters?
That's a very good question. Some people say that cover letters are worthless, and some others love them. To be completely honest, I always include them, and in most of the positions I have applied for, there was always the requirement of including a cover letter, and the cover letter allows you to expand on some of the things that you don't have there and to tell more about what you have done in a specific positions or in a, or for specific skills that the company you're applying for is interested. So for me, it's important. In my experience as a hiring manager, what I have done is first I take a look to the CV. When I take a look to the CV, I take a look to the cover letter. So I do not go from the cover letter to the CV, but that's what I do. Usually the systems that we use, they show you the CV and then they show you the cover letter.
Also, maybe the cover letter can be more personal. So if you have something personal to share, or if you want to share some enthusiasm for the position, which is not obvious, a cover letter might be the right place to do that.
Yeah.
And another question from Daniel. How relevant is it to mention the number of words translated so far?
Uh, that's a good question. I like what you say. Example, 2 million words and counting. For me, that's completely irrelevant, to be honest. What I want to know is what you can do and the skills that you have, not the amount of words that you can translate. Why? Because I can assign you something that is very easy to translate, and you can finish that in 10 seconds. I'm exaggerating, but you can finish that very, very fast. But I can assign you something that is quite complicated, and that it takes you 1 month to finish, and maybe it's just 1,000 words. And Okay, so your output in 1 month has been 1,000 words. Yes, but it was, for example, I don't know, something related to medicine or something super technical that you need a lot of time. So I was exaggerating. 1,000 words in 1 month, it will be will be not probably not acceptable. But telling me that you have translated 2 million words, for me it doesn't mean anything.
Then we have a question about the aesthetics from Ludovica.
Mhm.
Your CV has a blue band. Are there colors we should avoid or just stick to more monochrome look?
That's a good question. I work a little bit here with the psychology of CVs. And then if you read about colors and what they usually, um, or the message behind the color, I used blue because it's usually associated with intelligence. So I wanted them to see that. Also because it's a color that it's transmitting that you are calm and things like that. So it's not aggressive. So I will never use a lot of colors. In my opinion, that's something you should avoid. And also colors that could be, I don't know, like yellows or very strong colors. I will not use them. That cool. I have received CVs like that, and to be completely honest, that has been the it maybe it has been one or twice in my life, but when I saw it, I said, okay, no, I'm not going to. I don't want to burn my eyes reading this info.
And from Analia, from your experience, why would a translation company need our photo? I refused to send a photo of mine to a US company a couple of weeks before, and that was the end of the conversation.
Well, Analia, this is what I was saying before. I will not need your picture, and I don't care about people's pictures. But some cultures may, and you need to adapt to the company or to the country culture. So if they require it, I mean, if you are against that, I respect it, and then okay, you know that you are not fitting in that culture, in that environment. So that's okay. I mean, better for you. Yeah, that's a good sign that was a red flag. Okay, if they want a picture of you and you don't want to provide it, and they insist, okay, that's the end. But the end for them and the end for you. So yeah, no problem. Do whatever you makes you feel comfortable. Nothing that makes you feel uncomfortable. But then, of course, think of your target culture and the target company. So again, I'm giving the example of Germany. Germany, they will ask you to present a super professional picture. Mm, it's up to you if you want to send your selfie in the bathroom, but that's not what they expect.
And we have another question from UD. Is it mandatory to limit the CV to one
Mm.
page? Does it risk being rejected if it comes to 2 pages?
No, nobody's going to reject a CV even if it's 5 pages long. But I do not need a 5 pages long CV. If you cannot manage to include your most important information in one page, then probably you are not the best candidate for a position. Look, I'm not saying that I am a genius or anything. So a genius maybe needs 2 pages if you have the Nobel Prize or whatever. But and the research you have done. But um, I have been 25 years working. I have 4 master degrees, um, but my CV is just one page. I have removed a lot of information. You have to do that exercise of removing information.
And we have another question from Aurora. What is the best way to add CPD on your resume? And is it supposed to go under the education section?
That's a very good one. CPD is super important because it demonstrates the hiring person that you are continuously learning and that you are upgrading your skills. But again, if you are including CPD, it needs to be because it's very important for the position. And you need to explain with that CPD what you managed to get, the skills that you got. So the important thing is not saying, okay, it's like I mean, we are translators and we sell courses. So, but if you take a course with us and you say, okay, I localization course at translators, okay, I'm as a hiring manager, I say, okay, so what? What did you learn with that course? What are your skills? Tell me about your skills. What did you do? That's what I want to read. Once I see that, and not only what I want to read, but also if it goes through a system that reads your information, it needs to read what you learn to do. So that's the important thing. Include CPD if it's relevant to the position you're applying for, to the company you are applying, you're writing your or emailing. Yeah, that's important.
So for those who are asking in the chat, what is CPD? CPD is continuous professional development. So any courses you might take after university or any kind of degree, and that you take while you're working or just before, to specialize in a niche or in a domain. And from Azevedo, in sending a cover letter, do you write it directly to the email or you send the cover letter previously written?
Acevedo, I guess you mean that if you attach it to the CV. I never attach it to the CV. So in most positions, if you're applying to a position, you go through a system that is going to ask you, okay, load here your CV and load here your cover letter. That's easy. No way to make a mistake. If you are like applying spontaneously to a position where nobody was asking for a specific candidate, then in the same email you need to attach both things, and you attach your CV, or even better than attaching things, I would say nowadays will be to include a link to your CV and to your cover letter. So in the body of the letter that you write, you include, please find here my CV and a cover letter where I explain why I would like to work for this fantastic company and why I am the best candidate in the world. That's the type of things. By the way, now that I'm mentioning email letters, please never include your rates in the email you send. Okay? Why? Because imagine I am a company from Norway where the standard of living is very high, and I was willing to pay you, I don't know, 3.30 euros per word, just to tell you something. And you say that you can work for 0.02, hey, you are losing 28 cents there. So the rates it's something that you negotiate later. So do not include your rates in the emails you write or in your CV.
And from Alberto, shall we always had some references to data privacy, in this case, regulations and GDPR?
I do not include them. I mean, it's supposed to be. I do not include that. I don't think that's necessary.
Okay, and from Lina, can it be useful to include other skills outside the translator profession? And what about hobbies? Do we have to include them?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Of course, yes. As I was saying before, to give like an example that for some people say, but I have just worked as a waiter in a restaurant. Well, that could be relevant for the position, because you can work under pressure, but you need to explain why it is relevant. Whatever you have done in your life, in your case, as a book cataloger, well, that's super important. So you know how to order things. You have a structured mind that can be super useful for translation, for project management, for localization management. You know different genres. So that's important. That's important information. And about hobbies, again, same thing. Is it relevant to your position, or could it be somehow relevant to the position? In your cover letter, you may mention your hobbies or your passions, like say, well, and I love history and I love watching sports. Okay, but in a CV, I will not include my hobbies unless they have some connection with the job or can provide some extra information that it's interesting.
And we have one last question from Melissa. What about the layout? So I see that your CV is in like two columns,
Mhm.
one on the right and one
Yeah.
on the left. Is it the best layout out there, or are there other variations?
Yeah, of course, it can be however you want to do, but this way, I think the information is quite clear. So you divide the important information in two different sides. So on the right side, you have the work experience, and then the education that probably needs more space to develop what you have done or what the skills you got. On the left side, I include information that doesn't need to be developed that much. So I talk about my areas of expertise, so team project management, the CAD tools and translation management systems I use, the areas where I feel confident, what I can do, creation of guidelines. And then I have some other skills that I add here. For example, the CMS, the content management systems I know and I can use, the management tools, the management systems. So that's information that does not need to be further developed. So it's okay there, and you can take a quick look at that. But if you want to read a little bit more, you go, okay, localization manager at Formlabs. I'm going to read what that person achieved there. So yeah, develop there the information. So that's why I have structured it that way. And usually in the templates you find, it's going to be like that in two columns.
Mhm. I have a question now.
Okay.
And so the area of expertise
Mhm.
could be the place where translators can write their specializations. Is it
Yeah,
the right
absolutely.
place?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good question, Roberta. Yeah, right there where you are or where you feel you are experts. Be careful with saying that you are experts in 10 different fields of expertise, please. Don't do that because nobody is going to believe you. You can be very good at something, and actually, you should focus your career in specializing in different things, not just in one, um, but do not say that. What I see sometimes is when people just got their degree in translation or modern languages, they say, I'm an expert in science translation, in medical translation, technical translation, literary translation, audiovisual translations. Oh my God, really? In just 4 years at the university, and you are now an expert on all those? I mean, studying something doesn't mean that you are an expert on that thing. So be also careful on what you say that you are an expert, and do not say that you are an expert on too many things, because usually that's not information that is going to be really believable. So yeah, better to reduce the information you want to show or share.
And on the skills,
Yeah,
what are the kind of skills that translators or interpreters or language professionals should mention?
yeah, that's a very good question. So on the skills side, I will mention for example, the translation management systems or the CAD tools that you can use. And then if you work in a specific field that has its own tools like audiovisual translation, and you work with subtitling tools like ONA, like Agisub, or whatever the tool you use, mention them. If you have some other skills that can be added here, because imagine you know about marketing and you use Google Analytics or Ahrefs or Hotsuite, well, you can mention them here as well. Or if you know programming, or if you can use some other tools, mention them here because they can be useful.
Mhm. And I have one last question from Melissa that asks, what do you think about companies that ask for the rates to be specified in the email? And I want to mention that maybe we can create a live session on emails, since it's so hot in the
Yes.
chat.
Can you hear me well? Can you see me well? Because I had okay,
Yes,
some
yes,
connection
yes.
problems. I was okay. Yeah, good question. If they request you to provide the rates, And email, I don't think that's a very good company to start with, but it depends. Again, you if that's the information, the first thing that they want to see from you, probably it's because they don't want to pay you a lot. So they are focused on price and not on quality. So they don't care much about your CV. They care about your rates. So again, that for me wouldn't be the best company to work with. Another thing is that, of course, in the course of negotiation and conversations, at a given point, they ask you for your rates. That's completely normal, and you can share that with them. But you can always share a range and not saying my rates are 0.08. No, maybe there is a range. For example, it depends on the project. It depends on the time that I am allotted to work on that project. So it can go from 0.08 to 0.22, something like that. So you are covered. You say, well, 0.08 will be for something like post editing, and if I have a lot of time. So you can then turn the rates to your favor.
Mm-hmm. And if you have more questions, this is the time to drop them in the chat. And I would like to share this phrase from Marcelo, which is really some wisdom, a piece of wisdom that says it's better to keep a low profile by being humble. That's really true. CDs
Mm,
can be humble.
I mean, it's not saying it's, of course, you need to be honest in CVs. Do not lie or do not add things that you are not able to do. Of course, you can always get new skills, and but do not lie. If you are not the person for a job, it's better not to apply. But if just apply if you can get the skills they're asking you to get, or if you already have the skills. But do not lie in your CVs. That will be my recommendation. You can do whatever you want, of course.
Okay, so if we don't have more questions, I would like to thank you, Alfonso, for your time and for sharing your expertise with us. It has been a great pleasure. And thank you to the audience for all the very nice and interesting questions. This live session will be uploaded on our website in the media resources section, and also on our YouTube channel, which I suggest you to follow. And that was all for today. And so see you very, very soon.
Yeah, thank you very much, Roberta. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day. Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.